Chris LaRusso, who I went to law school with and who was one of the people that helped train me when I started in the business, he had early on, he said, you know, when you're thinking about your character, your presentation, you want to pass the Denny's test. And the Denny's test is, imagine 4 people come to a professional wrestling show. They're maybe fans of wrestling, maybe they're not. They just want to come and be entertained. They go to Denny's after the show and they're asking their friends, what do you remember about the show? Who stood out? And so everything I've done in professional wrestling, from my entrance to what I wear to even, you know, throwing out the business cards, is all to make sure that when you leave the show, you're never going to forget my character. And so for me, you know, one of my favorite lawyer movies is a movie starring Paul Newman called The Verdict. And The Verdict follows Paul Newman's journey as a struggling personal injury lawyer to take on a large corporation in a case for a woman that is, you know, on her deathbed. The movie starts with Paul Newman handing the widow's or the widow his business card at the funeral home. Okay, and that was what was synonymous with lawyers being ambulance chasers or going, you know, showing up to a wreck and giving their business card. So I thought, what can I do as a wrestler that would allow me to connect with the audience in that way? And so I created the business cards. And so I throw the business cards out. It gives the fans something to take home with them. It gives them something to throw back at me. It has all my social media on it. So
personal plug, yeah.
You're not going to forget me. And when you think about what people remember at a wrestling show, okay, I remember that moment, okay? So the Denny's test for me was, hey, do you remember that guy who was 6 foot tall that threw a drop kick? Well, no one's really going to remember that. Do you remember that guy that came out with the Law & Order theme song that threw his business cards at us that, oh, I have one, you know, one ended up in my lap? Absolutely. You know, you're a perfect example. You did your first live podcast of 2 Jagoffs.
Thank you, yes.
And it ended with you going through a table. That's a moment that people are going to remember. They're not going to remember the individual question you asked Lanny Fratteri or whoever was at the show. They're going to remember, wow, this was crazy. I showed up and the guy who hosted it went through a table.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think for anyone that's in some type of performance industry, be it wrestling, music, live theater, whatever, what are you doing to stand out?